Hello, 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 everybody, and welcome to another Toonkind at 12 FPS. My name is Mira, and I will be playing Sammy Jax today. And with me is the very wonderful,
Oatmeal, and I will be playing the Professor.
who we adore very much, and I am very happy to have you here with me today. And to start things off, Professor, what have you been up to since the end of Vituroso's Flourish?
Not a ton, only because it hasn't been very long. He attended the sort of like lunch meeting with the other members of the party at the last one in where Errata works.
Mm-hmm.
And then between then and now, he has been running around finding pieces and materials to rebuild a necessary part for his ship, the Ellipsis 4000. And having done so successfully, he is taking her on a test flight.
All right. Uh, how does that flight generally go? Do you think? Like, how is it? How is it?
Um, it goes smoothly, but she ends up wherever she wants to be. It is largely out of his control.
Mm-hmm. All right. How do you think she describe to me how she lands?
I think considering this is what he was focused on, she she uh, she materializes smoothly this time,
Mm-hmm.
um, with some loud mechanical sounds, as the red phone box fades in and out of existence until it settles solidly into existence,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a pretty smooth landing.
All right. Uh, Professor, as you open the door, I want you to make me a perception check, real quick.
Absolutely. Perception. Uh, 5.
Okay, on a 5, you exit the door of your
Mhm.
ship and you look around. It's a pretty normal street in Toontown. You don't really see anything really out of the ordinary. People are milling about, kind of just going, looking at shops. There's many. You've basically found yourself in a shopping district.
Mm.
Um, but as you take a few steps forward, just kind of getting your bearings, looking around, you cross across the middle of the street uh, a bit, and
Mm.
then all of a sudden, everything goes silent.
Oh. I think he stops and uh, turns around. Um, it's silent. Are things still moving?
Yes, there. You can see there are still kind of people around on the side where you had come from, where your the phone box, your ship is still. And there's like still people there, but like as you are looking around, you realize on the side of the street that you're on, there's no one there. That's completely deserted, and the atmosphere of this place is completely different from the opposite side where your ship has landed.
Okay. I think he's going to try and step back across and see what happens. Step back towards the ship again.
As you get nearer to this, as you step across the middle of the street, almost as if you're stepping over an invisible line, sound bursts out, and you can hear the song of the street again. You can hear people talking, people calling out wares, you can hear the birds, you hear sound again. And it's bright, it's happy, uh, and as you turn to look, you notice that the other side of the street is in disrepair. It's more faded. There's less outline to to these buildings. They're more sketchy in comparison to the bright, vibrant, bold outlines of the rest of Toontown, as you've seen.
Oh boy. Well, that does interest him very much. So he is going to go back across towards quieter the quieter side of the road, where things are more in disrepair, and he wants to get a good look at those buildings, because that's a phenomenon he hasn't seen before.
Roll me an investigation check then.
Okay. Got a 13.
Oh, you posted it in the Nuts and Bolts gallery, but I can still see it.
Okay, sorry.
It's fine. With the 13, as you get closer to these buildings, you notice that a lot of there is glass that crunches underneath your feet, your clawed feet. Clawed, why did I say clawed? Your clad feet. And you see that there are some of the shops. You realize that these are old abandoned shops that have been boarded up, and they look like they've been abandoned for ages and ages. And it is very sketchy, and it very, very faded, as if someone had, like, the best metaphor you can come up with is if someone had tried to take a huge eraser and try and erase the outline of this place. Tried to make Toontown forget that this sector ever existed.
Oh boy. That's wow. I mean, he's I think he's gonna maybe try to go deeper into this area. Like see if it changes or gets I don't know, like more extreme the further away from the noisy side of the street that he goes. So whether he's slipping between buildings or just taking another street, I don't know, but yeah.
As you go along, you come across another. You basically go another block, and since you're basically going deeper in, I will ask you to roll another perception.
All right. Okay. Got a dirty 20.
Okay, with a dirty 20, you kind of get the sense of, as you're walking along, getting deeper in, you kind of get this feeling of the pressure of this silence getting thicker around you. Sharper. And almost like teeth kind of dragging across your skin, almost. But there's no true bite. There is the sense that time has slightly dulled this wound you're realizing in this Toontown space. Um, and with that dirty 20, you finally see an old the sign displaying what would have been played is gone, but you recognize that that there is a theater ahead of you. And as you take steps closer to it, there is a slight change in the atmosphere around it as let me just really quickly. Okay. You hear that was you hear just one sec. I just need to roll one more thing. Expecting it. Okay. You hear something, actually, and it seems to be coming from an alleyway across, not across, tucked against the side of this just old, decrepit theater. And it's kind of like a pop, oof.
Oh boy. Geez, I mean, I think he's just going to like raise his eyebrows and just like make a beeline for that that spot, that alleyway, and just follow the noise. 'Cause that's new.
Yeah, and with your dirty 20, I'm not going to make you re-roll quite yet. You quickly find a slot in this very old fence that has a very sketchy outline. The paint is very visibly peeling off of the slots. What you suspect what used to be white fencing is now just kind of sketchy looking wood. But it's big enough for there's a slot that has been pulled aside that has a space big enough for you to slide into. And as you kind of look around, you notice that there are a lot of trees that are poking up above the fence, and it seems like this is an area kind of behind the theater itself.
He'd like to go in and take a look.
All right, just roll me perception, just real quick, one more time.
Yep. Oh, I got a 22. Just drop that in here.
All right. With the 22, you look around and you see a garden that is behind this theater. And you look around and there is the babbling of a fountain with a woman standing with a spear, and she has flowing rainbow blown glass rainbow hair. Where and the spear is what is pouring from the water is pouring from. And you kind of with that 22, you notice that this is a garden that looks like once upon a time had been very incredibly well tended, but there's it's overgrown now with many very scraggly, scratchy looking weeds, and they're threatening to choke out these flower beds that have been lovingly maintained. And for a second you don't see the source of the noise that had brought your attention to this place, but as you're looking around, you realize you can hear birds, you can hear life again in this small pocket. And then you see the source of all of this. Uh, the source of the initial noise that you heard that broke the silence. You see Sammy Jacks kind of flopped on his back, holding a pair of weeds that he had been trying to pull out of the garden bed, and he looks different from when you first saw him. First being the fact that he is not wearing a mask.
Mm-hmm.
One, he does not have. He is wearing a black cloak, and underneath that is a short-sleeved shirt that is kind of a dark, kind of steel gray, and underneath that is a darker gray, longer sleeve shirt. And he's also wearing dark, kind of the same kind of dark grayish pants, and the only trace of rainbow is his hair and his the inside of his cloak. Whereas before, his clothing had been purely shades of gray with rainbow trimming around and a very dark, nearly black gray mask.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just kind of blinking up at the trees that are kind of dotted around, and he's just kind of like, I was gone for 2 days.
I think it takes a second for the professor to like fully connect the dots that this is the same person, that this is Sammy Jacks, because he wasn't precisely expecting him to be this different, because he's not entirely he's not sure how far in time that he's moved. Although it is becoming clear that it has not been a few days as he initially thought. So I think he takes a step or two forward and says, "Hello, Sammy."
Sammy kind of sits bolt upright and just kind of blank. Oh, Professor, it's been a while. How are you? I should have known that other people would start popping around the garden again for some plot-forsaken reason. Hi, how are you? And he just kind of throws his clump full of weeds around over his shoulder as he sat up, and you with that Tony too that you had, you can see that there is a slowly growing pile of weeds behind him.
Mm-hmm.
It's clear he's been at this for a while, and he's not really making a dent quite yet.
Mm-hmm. The professor grins and just kind of strides along closer, and says, "Hello, it's good to see you again. I suppose it has been a while. I'm glad to see you're all right."
Roll insight.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, with a 19, you realize that as you say, "I'm glad you're all right," Sammy flinches a little bit, and he just kind of reaches up and rubs at the back of his neck, and as he does so, his sleeve kind of rolls up, and you notice that there are dots uh, on his kind of encircling his wrist, and also that there are dots uh, on his neck as well,
Mm. Mm-hmm.
and they're rainbow.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, I've been better, to be honest.
Perhaps not then.
Sorry, could you say that again?
I said, perhaps not then. Oh, I misjudged. Um,
Um, ha- how have you been, Professor? I know I already asked that, but it's been 4 months since I saw you last. A lot's happened to me, so how are you?
uh, um, uh, uh, let me think. Um, I think he sort of nods slowly and he says, well, it hasn't been quite as long for me. Uh, but for months.
Just gonna roll
Um,
intelligence to see if Sammy can connect the dots, and that was a 9.
okay. Could I was actually gonna. Okay, so you get, yeah, you get like a vibe that, like, hey, he said something kind of weird, huh? Didn't he? But like, what was it? Um, but can I ask you to roll perception?
Yep. Yeah. Okay. That was do perception. What's your modifier? Oh, okay. That is a dirty 20.
Excellent. Good. Okay, so Sammy, you got that sort of. I think he said something weird, huh? And then you take a closer look, and uh, the professor doesn't look any different from the last time you saw him, and really any different. Like he's wearing the exact same uh, clothes, like to the thread, and which is, for Toons that's one thing, but for real kind, it really, they tend to change a little more often than that. And he's got dirty 20. Like, you can see a faint line on his. He's close enough now. You can see like a faint line on his cheek from that looks like the mark he got when Maya beamed him with the mace a long time ago. Um, and also he's got like faint orange like bruising on his forehead from, if you would remember. I don't know if you quite would make this leap if you were paying that much attention, but that was from the mannequins in a Virtuoso's Flourish.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, he's got some familiar scuff marks. Uh, yeah.
Sammy's just like, he's picked up on all of this. Healer instincts are kind of twinging a bit, but I'm combining that with my 9 of him trying to connect the dots, and it's the dots are not connecting. He's just squinting at you, Professor. He is so confused, and as he's staring at you, his shading goes from more light, kind of yellow, to a gray shading on his white skin, and he's
Mm-hmm.
just kind of squinting at you, and like he's visibly taking in everything about your appearance, Professor, but
Mm-hmm.
it's just there are like literal question marks floating above his head, and he's just like, what?
Yeah. He sees this, and just smiles a little bit because that's such a fun trait to have. That's such a cool way to communicate. Um, um, and um, he kind of tilts his head and gives Sammy a look over uh and says, you look different.
Oh, yeah, I went through a redesign. Uh, he kind of gets fully up to his feet and kind of turns around so Professor can like see all of the changes and stuff. And he also kind of tugs at his hair and is just like, I swear, if I go through another redesign, like he's also kind of slightly talking to himself at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if I get another redesign and my hair goes down to my butt, to my feet, I am going to trip one of these days. I don't know how Gil handles it.
The professor looks a little concerned now. Um, his eyebrows furrow a little bit, and he said, did something happen?"
Sammy's just gonna really quickly.
It's,
Okay, that
a
was.
loaded question.
What is your modifier for that? Okay, that was 13 plus 1. He's like, no, no, nothing happened. Everything's
What?
fine.
But what? Why the why such a drastic change in appearance? I mean, I know it's been months, but
Uh, I'm gonna keep your 19 in insight,
mm-hmm.
Professor. Sammy's lying through his teeth because he doesn't want to worry you.
Mm-hmm.
Even though
Mm-hmm.
you also get the sense that this has happened and the event is over,
Mm-hmm.
there's still like a lingering kind of. Sammy's trying to weasel his way out of trying to explain. It's not
Uh-huh.
working very well, though. This boy cannot lie.
He says, I mean, unless you were a changeling of some
Uh,
sort.
um,
In my experience, it's
Toons go through redesigns. It's a normal thing for us. Our appearance will change sometimes when we uh, reach certain character development levels. Um, Basically, it's normal, but sometimes it gets triggered after a big event in your life and stuff. Uh, Sometimes it's not the change in of itself. At least it shouldn't be. Isn't traumatic or anything, but
oh,
sometimes it can happen after a traumatic experience.
uh, hmm.
Uh,
Well, that's something.
it basically just kind of helps showcase how you've grown or changed over your life. It's a normal. It's a normal thing. It's just that sometimes the event that triggers your change can be a bit more traumatic than you'd like. Um,
And I'm guessing, since you're mentioning it, that yours was. Not that I'm going to pry, but I'm sorry, Sammy.
it's everything turned out okay. I had Arata there to help
That's
talk me
good.
down from doing something I would have really regretted, but
Mm.
um, it, I was Sammy kind
She
of hesitates and looks away.
he says you don't have to.
um, just I was kidnapped by a real kind man named Sinclair a few days ago, over my birthday.
Oh, he looks mad. You can tell already he looks mad.
Mm-hmm. Sammy kind of glances back at Professor and kind of smiles weakly. It's I had people who figured it out and came and rescued me. He's in custody now. Um, after 8 long years, he's finally behind bars. But it's it's one of the reasons why I changed recently. I think because that part of my story's finally over. Um, it's left a few questions still unanswered, but I'm free for the first time in a while.
That's good. His face like clears and his expression clears and he looks more earnest now and he says it's good to have a fresh start.
Yeah, it is. It's one of the reasons why it, change isn't bad. It's just a lot's happened since I last saw you last, Professor.
Yes, it seems so.
Sammy kind of fidgets for a moment and kind of looks at you and then back at the garden, and then with that 19, you can clearly see a painting that is kind of leaned up against a tree. And Sammy looks back over at that and then walks over and puts the painting up against a brick wall that kind of surrounds that you assume is another building kind of across from the garden
Mm-hmm.
next to the theater. And he steps back, and as you watch, the painting morphs into a door, and then a small cottage appears where the painting had stood, and you realize that that painting was a painting of this cottage that is now kind of growing out from where the painting had stood. And Sammy kind of turns to you, Professor, and he's like, do you want some tea?
uh he is looking at the painting and he is uh he's I mean he's just kind of grinning at it and he looks to Sammy and um he says if you're offering.
I'm offering. Come on. This is my house of paint. I got it from Glorps a little while ago. Come on. I'll make us both a cup.
He comes through and as he does he is definitely paying attention to like any sort of effect that happens.
Mm-hmm.
um
As you step through into the door, tell me, what is a smell that Professor kind of associates with home and safety?
Oh, geez. Um, uh,
Like, it doesn't have to be a singular smell, it can be a mixture or whatnot.
yeah. I think, uh, I think, honestly, uh, sort of like, metal and, uh, well, and maybe like freshly cut grass.
Mm-hmm. That's kind of what you smell as you walk into this house, and you notice that there is a place where you can take off your shoes and kind of put them on a little shoe rack. And
Hmm.
Sammy's already kind of towed off his boots and put them by the rack,
Hmm.
um, and
Yeah, he'll
has
do that.
stepped up across. Like there's like a little step that like then therefore there leads out of kind of this little uh, area, um, and he leads you into a small, cozy kind of mixture between a living room and a kitchen. There is a couch that is across from where all the kitchen stuff is, and there is a half wall that kind of separates the kitchen cooking equipment from the rest of the living room and such. And there is a table and curtains that are kind of slightly floating in the white curtains that are kind of floating in the breeze of an open window in more
Mhm.
of the kitchen area.
Mhm.
And Sammy's gonna head into the kitchen and start making some tea, and I'm just gonna roll to see how well he did. That was survival is +4. Okay, so that is 23 that he got.
Mhm.
So mixed in with the smell of metal and freshly cut grass, you start smelling this very soothing, gentle smell of green tea that starts to waft in from the kitchen as Sammy sets, kind of pours some already boiling water into 2 cups,
Mhm.
2 mugs. And as you watch, you can kind of see this faint, kind of like floral, soothing green steam rising up
Mhm.
from the 2 cups that have and each have a tea bag in
Mhm.
the cups. And you realize, oh, this is a Toon tea.
Mhm.
And
Well,
eventually it's done, and Sammy hands you one, and he kind of pulls out like some sugar, honey, like stuff that if you want your tea sweet, you can sweeten your tea with.
mhm. Yeah. Um, I think he reaches for some of the honey, and as he's adding it in, says, "Is this a pocket dimension?"
Sammy kind of pauses, and I'm just gonna roll intelligence again. That's a 2. Uh, he kind of looks at you, Professor, and just gives you the biggest shrug. You immediately kind of just get the sense that he Sammy is the Toon that just operates on Toon logic. He doesn't really question things. He just kind of goes with the flow. He doesn't think about things too hard and pocket dimension? He has a hammer space. That's a pocket dimension. He thinks maybe. Sometimes it's in a sleeve or a
Hmm.
pocket. If it's if it's not in a if it's not in a pocket, does that make that like his like thoughts are starting to kind of circle around? He's both very literally he's cartoonishly both literal and not literal at the same time as he's trying to think about what a pocket dimension actually means.
I think he's going to see this and um, just sort of wave a hand and say, "Never mind. It doesn't matter."
All I really know is that it's my home now. I saved enough to get it from Glorps, and I can just stick it in my hammer space and take it wherever I go. It's a big relief to have a home to come back to.
And a portable one at that. Very, very convenient.
Mm-hmm. It lasts for, excuse me, while I cannot actually remember how long the house of paint actually lasts. I have not. I was not planning on this. This is all improv. So,
Fair.
just Sammy states how actually long it's supposed to last. I think it's 8 hours? Question mark. Like enough for a long rest
Hmm.
and such. But yeah.
It's very nice.
Mm-hmm. And I always have room for friends coming over, and plus one for just in case. So, um, if you ever need to sleep over or stay the night, there's always a space for you, Professor. Um,
Thank you, Sammy. That's
mm-hmm.
sweet of you. I have my own place, though, but I appreciate it.
Sammy kind of relaxes at the hearing that the professor has a space, like a place of his own.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's this is my home. It's
Hmm.
got a we have I say we, but I mean I have starting. I'm working on a library up, uh, collecting books when I can. Um, my friend Hugh sends me books that kind of help me figure out how to read. Um, I've gotten a lot better, um, but I've got a lot of books from him now, so it's the house decided to make a library, so I have places to put my books.
Oh, is this one of those living houses?
I don't think it's exactly sentient. It might turn sentient. It's magic, though. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it
At the
could.
very least, somewhat empathetic, perhaps.
Yeah, it it gives me what I need. So, because I
Mm-hmm.
don't know sometimes how many people will show up.
Mm-hmm.
And it always manages to have the staples of what I need, which is reassuring when you didn't have that beforehand.
Yes. Um, there's a kind of pause, um, uh, and he says, uh, "I did sort of get the feeling that that may have been um, the case when were so understanding with Mitmat back then.
Um, yeah, I before I came here to Toontown, I was on the streets for a while. Um, After my family, we after my parents died, I was on the run for a while. I had to stay on the streets. Um,
Mm. He nods and looks down, and uh, there's a faint smile on his face as he just sort of nods in understanding. Um, if you like, you can roll insight.
I'm gonna please dice be nice to me. Okay, that was a dirty 20.
Wow. Okay, with a dirty 20, um, you can intuit that those things that you just said uh, really resonated with the professor. Your parents died, and you were on the run uh, since then. Um, and yeah, so that is something that it looks as if he can really relate to that.
Sammy kind of ducks his head a little and just kind of uh, looking into his teacup and kind of glancing back up at the professor every once in a while. I just kind of like, um, Professor, do uh, with um, running. Uh, do you ever get tired of running?
That's a good question. I did. Um, then I was forced to stop, and I couldn't run anywhere.
Ooh, feel free to roll insight.
Yes. Okay. 4.
Okay, with the 4, you just kind of see Sammy's shading go an ashy, uh, gray tinged blue purple that's very dark.
Mm.
And he's just kind of staring at you with kind of like a, oh, like just, kind of
Uh-huh.
expression on his face.
Uh-huh.
Like, that's all you really get. You don't get what that color means, what he's.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, he continues though. Recently though, I've been able to I've been freed, and I can run whenever I want. And it's been nice.
Yeah. Um, Being not cooped up and trapped, it's relieving.
Yes.
I'm glad you're here, Professor.
I'm glad you're here too, Sam.
Yeah, yeah, I'm really glad to be here and that I got to meet you and Professor and Arata and Seeker as well, and
Mhm.
Amber. I am really glad that I've been able to meet all of you guys. Um, there was a few days ago, I wasn't sure if I was gonna see you guys ever again. And I'm glad that I I am very happy to see you again, Professor.
I'm happy to see that you're still here.
Yeah. Me too. I'm dying here.
Oh, jeez. Ah.
Hello, Feels.
Ah. Oh, man.
Oh. Oh.
Oh.
I'm. I honestly, I could say we could potentially end it here with them
Mm.
enjoying tea and in each other's company because Sammy's. Oh man. He's not
Yeah.
really giving me anything else other than, oh, I'm glad Professor is here. I'm glad I'm here. Oh.
Mm-hmm.
And also just, oh, geez, Professor understands.
Uh-huh. Oh, man. Oh, jeez. I'm trying to think if there was anything else, like,
Mm-hmm.
uh,
Like, same. It's just like,
the professor even, he had other questions, but, like, it doesn't seem like the right time. Uh, oh, he does have one, have
mm-hmm.
one question. Um, After, I think, uh, a comfortable bit of silence and some tea, um, uh, he looks a little confused, and he looks up and he says, "Sammy, what was that? What was that effect um, outside? Not in. It was quiet. It was localized. It was too quiet."
I'm just gonna really quickly. Okay. 14, I am saying passes because otherwise my dice are bullying me. Um, Sammy kind of blinks at you for a few moments, and then his mouth kind of goes into that O shape as he kind of like, and his eyes kind of widen, and he goes, "Oh, um, I there's the deity I follow, Prismatone, the follower, not follower, the deity of Solin's voice, sound, basically.
Ah,
And then there's the silence. Um, a while back, the silence imprisoned Prismatone. She's back now, but uh, the silence's effects are still felt here, I think. I keep asking Prismatone what exactly happened between the followers of the Silence and my fellow Prismatone followers, but she hasn't really told me anything. But from what I can guess, this area used to be heavily inhabited by Prismatone followers, and the followers of the Silence did something to them, I think. I don't know what, but
But they're gone now.
they're gone. I've met a few followers, but we're not as many as we used to be.
Well, I'm glad to see you're tending the place. It's a lot nicer in the middle, where your garden is.
Yeah, it looked a lot better before I was kidnapped. I was gone for 2 days. I was gone for 2 days, and now it's a mess. And his shading has gone kind of red at this point, but it's
Mhm.
not a very deep, bright red. But
Mhm.
and like he just kind of lets out an annoyed huff that actually translates into one of those little anime mushroom sighs.
Uh-huh.
And he just kind of puts his hands on his hips, and he looks like he's kind of frustratedly pouting and glaring out the window to where the rest of the garden is.
Oh, well, such is entropy.
Yeah, usually it doesn't happen that fast, but I was just gone for 2 days. Two
Are
days,
you
Professor.
are you sure it was only 2 days?
It was 2 days.
Mm. Well, fast growing leaves, I suppose.
There's a quiet mumble of Grolix underneath Sammy's breath, and he just kind of shakes his head and's like, I'll just have to work extra hard to get the garden back into shape.
Would you like some help?
That would actually be really appreciated. It's annoying
Yeah.
sometimes trying to keep all of these shrines well tended
Mhm.
myself. And I was
I,
planning on planting some vegetables too, now that I can.
mhm. I have the rest of the day at least, until the next time I see you.
I'd really like the company, Professor. Thank you.
No problem.
I love the professor so much.
Oh, you wanna wrap it up from
Yep.
about here then?
Yeah, we can end it here. I
Yeah.
say that they kind of leave the house of paint, uh, and they both are kind of gardening and stuff. And as Sammy kind of walks the professor how to deal with toon weeds, um,
Mhm. Mhm.
uh, the camera kind of pans up into the sky as some clouds are passing by, and yeah, the camera turns off. That's our FPS.
Yay!
Thank you for
Thank
joining us,
you. Thank you, everybody.
and thank you,
Goodbye.
Oatmeal. Thank you, Oatmeal,
Ah,
for doing this with me. I had a blast.
absolutely. Thank you, Mira. This is wonderful.
All
Oh my gosh.
right. I'm gonna say goodbye to the listeners now. Bye.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.